Hi, Mama.
Hi, Lizzie.
Hmm. I wanted to talk to you today about sickness, about being sick and our asana practice. So, you're in California and I'm in Austria, and we've both independently had the flu this month. And I've been questioning when to start practicing again and how to kind of weigh healing, giving the body time to heal, and when it's time to return to the mat, or if returning to the mat can help me heal. How have you thought about that in your many years of practice and teaching?
Well, when I started yoga and was in the honeymoon phase for a couple years, I believed that if I did yoga and ate organic food, that I would never get sick. I had this unacknowledged expectation that this was the panacea, this was the magic wand that was going to keep me healthy forever. So when I would get sick, I would believe I wasn't sick. And I would just do whatever I did. Um, and part of that was I could rely on my youth. But of course, things happen to human beings. Sickness, illness is as natural as health. It's part of the natural environment. And in some ways, you might say that having the occasional small illness, certainly not life threatening one, but it's sometimes a warning or a good sign that maybe you're overdoing it, you're not taking as much care of yourself as you think, or maybe you just need to slow down. I used to believe that sometimes I would want to get a mental cold even though I didn't have a physical one. So I would have, quote unquote, an excuse to withdraw a little bit. So illness is part of what it means to be alive, and it's not a failing of your yoga practice. If you have a fever, probably best you aren't doing active asana. You won't feel like it anyway. Although it might feel good to prop yourself up a little bit, or get yourself in a physical position of comfort, because when you're sick, you're often not physically comfort. So to use your props, maybe in bed, to feel really more relaxed. Depending on what's going on with you, you could pay attention to the breath. But I don't suggest until you're starting to feel more normal with normal appetite and no fever that you actually do an active practice, because your body needs all the energy it has to get well. Your instinct when you're sick is to get in bed and be still. And that's what you need to do, and let your body get well, and with the help of your doctor or your homeopath or however you approach your health, or all those things. I'm open to all those things. I don't recommend that you do it. I recommend that you let yourself be sick. Because for me, for many years, I would start to feel maybe once in a while something coming, and I would fight it. And now, if I sound like I'm sick all the time, but um, I let myself be sick, because we need to make as we age, we need to let our idea of what it means to practice yoga get bigger and bigger. Because maybe we're going to give up some poses over time that no longer serve us, or a practice is going to shift to more restorative or more meditation. And none of that is a mistake. We need to widen our view of yoga. So one of the things that I've done on this particular flu, which is really going around the city in which I live, is notice my attachment to not being sick. Notice my attachment to wanting it to be different, which is the definition of suffering. Clinging to what you want, any clinging at all, clinging to what you want your yoga practice to be and what it, quote unquote, it should be, is adding more suffering to yourself. And so even when you're sick, you can notice your mind. You can watch your breath, even if it's not as deep as you want it to be. Not saying you need to change it or do pranayama, but to watch how much we don't want to be sick, how much we want to have the thought, how much we want to have the thought that we're in control now of our body, because it seems like we are. We have these, the Yoga Sutra talks about these siddhis, about powers that come with the deepening of practice. And I've always felt that the asana themselves are a form of siddhis. The ability to stand on your head or your shoulders or your elbows, or to bend or to move in these ways is a form of power. And I think we have to be careful of the subtle and not so subtle attachment to that as our yoga. And remember that to create equanimity by watching the mind do its tap dance can happen at almost any time in any place. And that's the deepest form of practice. And the second thing I'll say is what I've often said to women I've taught who've become pregnant, who say to me, how will I know I'm in labor? And I always smile and say, you know. So there'll be a day when you'll wake up and you'll have a little curiosity of, oh, can I just go lie over a bolster? Can I put my feet up the wall? Can I do something simple? And then when that arises, you know it's time to start.
Thank you, Mama. I really like this whole investigation or this line of thinking about the beliefs we have if we practice yoga or even teach yoga, our belief in our invincibility, or that we should somehow be completely healthy in a different way than other people can get sick, but we should never get sick, or we should always be physically healthy. And I think it's maybe a good topic for today's yoga question, the kind of things we think about ourselves because we're yoga teachers. Someone recently said to me, who was teaching a weekend workshop and staying with a studio manager, and her husband, who has seen lots of yoga teachers come and go in his guest room, announced to me, oh, yoga teachers don't eat. And I thought how funny, the things that he sees and observes or we think about ourselves, that we should be somehow different.
Well, I will tell you this, that the more yoga teachers I know, this is slightly off topic, but so what, have been injured demonstrating than actually practicing yoga. Demonstrating is dangerous because you tend to, speaking of ideas we have about yoga teachers, is we tend to have this idea, okay, I'm going to demonstrate, I want to do it on my best side, quote unquote, because we want to show off that we can do it, and not that we're struggling, and that it's possible, and inspire the students and all of that. So then we get ego involved, and then we're thinking about what we're saying and what we're teaching and not about what we're doing. So one of the things I made a practice a very long time ago, talking about the beliefs of who I am as a yoga teacher, I would always demonstrate on the side that I needed more practice, on which I needed more practice, instead of the side that I could show off, and decorate my ego with the pose. So I decided not to stop. I didn't have these words then, but decorating my ego by doing it on the side that I was the quote unquote better, unquote.
That's so interesting, yeah.
And I can't tell you how many teachers I know who've gotten injured demonstrating a pose, not doing it in their yoga room at home, but demonstrating it. It's this thing between our ears is such a fascinating piece of real estate, and what it does to us, and how our thoughts and our attachments drive us like they're a whip that drives us to do things and to override our innate intelligence is fascinating to me.
Yes, thank you so much, Mama. I love hearing your thoughts about the degree to which it's a performance or an experience. So thank you for spending these 10 minutes with us. And I'm sending you a big namaste across the skies.
Back to you, darling.
If you enjoyed this conversation, you might also like our online education offerings for yoga teachers at www.lassiter.yoga.